Moms and dads, listen. You're not the problem, but you are part of the solution. And this podcast is here to help you reach with your troubled child. Known as the Teen Whisperer, Jason Clopton counsels young adults and has a proven track record of reaching kids when parents can't. Listen and take notes. This show will help you figure out what's bugging your baby and build a bridge to a better relationship with your kids.
You are listening to the Teen Whisperer, Jason Clopton. I'm your host and super excited to be with you today. I hope everybody's doing good out there. You know, a lot of great stuff happening around the world, and a lot of great stuff happening with our babies, y'all. You know, especially with this new rollout, right? We heard a little bit about the new change that's coming, right? We heard that message from the CDC talking about there's no mask, and and it's for fully vaccinated people. Let's be clear. You know, we don't want to misconstrue or put out there incorrect messaging, right? The CDC said if you're fully vaccinated, you no longer have to wear masks indoors or outdoors. And social distancing isn't a big deal, right? And if you are not fully vaccinated, then you're putting yourself at risk, right? And our babies, you know, my daughter came up to me right away and I said, we're going to have to talk a little bit about how to adapt to this change now as we continue to see a lot of changes happening that we must adapt to, right? So my daughter came to me and she was like, you know, Dad, I heard that we don't have to wear masks anymore. And, oh, isn't that cool? And I said, well, you know, so we had to have that conversation. And it was kind of interesting because my daughter actually said, well, I was just getting used to wearing masks. And I had just bought this pack of masks to go with all of my outfits and all of these different colors. And I bought this different style. And I actually just got used to them. And now we have to change it. And now we may not have to wear them. And this and that. And I said, wow, another change that we must adjust to, adapt to. And this is a theme for us, right? And parents, teens, everybody listening out there, aren't you tired? I feel like, honestly, I can't deal with more change right now, but it's our life. It's where we are. It's reality. It is how we progress. It's how we grow. It's how we mature. It's a natural part of our lifestyles, right? Change is just kind of something that's going to happen. Are you prepared for it? Can you deal with it? Can you manage it? How are you adapting to it? And how are we helping our kids and our babies adapt to this change as well? So today, let's talk about that, right? We got to talk about that, right? We have to really address this constant change that keeps happening for us. So I wanted to talk about that today. You know, there's been a lot of change, especially pre-pandemic, right? There was a lot of adjusting that we had to do. We didn't know where we were going. We had a lot of stuff going on. And then during the pandemic, right, distance learning hit our babies and social distancing and wearing masks. And we also had a lot of adjustments to make due to social justice concerns that were rising, right? Most people described it as being in multiple pandemics at the same time, right? So during pandemic, we had a lot of social justice things, and we're still fighting that good fight, but right, those things required us to change. And then post-pandemic, not saying that we're out of it, guys. I don't want to speak too soon, right? But as we're coming out of this phase, we're seeing things change again, right? So it's that, and one thing that stood out to me was there's this article that was out there about a school in New York that is actually, you know, looking at how much money they had to spend on some of those changes, right? Adding in software for distance learning and all of the money that they had to spend on maybe computers and hotspots and paying teachers, but all the money that went into this remote and distance learning kind of rapid change that had to happen, right? They're like, you know what? Snow days. On snow days, we should just have remote and distance learning now instead of having an off day for kids. So that's an adjustment and a change that kids are gonna have to get used to. That at this particular school, there's no snow days. And I'm probably sure that there'll be some similar changes that we see across the world, right, that relate to that post-pandemic phase, right, of all these changes that we made pre and during pandemic. How does that impact post-pandemic changes, right? We made a lot of investments, right? Our country, other countries made a lot of investments in adjusting to that pandemic and adapting to this new normal that we all are kind of like, wow, when is it ever going to end? When we can we get back to our old normal, right? But what we're starting to see is that this new normal may be around for a while, right? So how do we adapt to that? And more or less, how do we help our children, right, adapt to that type of change that could be constant, but also could be something that's changing what they're used to, especially how they previously thought about things, how they previously felt about things, right? And we all know that our thoughts and feelings tend to influence our behaviors and our actions, kind of directly connected. So, understanding that it's important that we help our children adapt, but not only our children, let's acknowledge what that change means for us as parents, as adults in society who don't tend to always play nice in the sandbox. We don't. So let's acknowledge it, right? But what does that change mean and how do we adjust? And it's important. So let's talk about that today, right? What changes are you seeing, right, that are constantly happening? What and how are those things impacting your kids, whether it's at school, whether it's at home, right? I've had some individuals talk about their co-parenting relationship and how that has caused constant change and that their children are tired of having to make this adjustment. Before, kind of pre-pandemic, I couldn't go back and forth to mom and dad's house, right? I had to stay with one parent or another. During pandemic, we figured it out, right? We figured out, okay, if you wear a mask and you do this, now we can go back and forth to mom and dad's house. And then post-pandemic, what does that look like now? And how do we make those adjustments as a co-parent, right? And knowing that our children live in two different households and maybe there's two different sets of values or standards and rules and things like that. So just being that critical and thinking that in depth about how these changes and this constant change impacts our babies. One thing, let's just get right into it, y'all. Let's lay out some things that might help. And one thing that I've realized is, focusing on living this healthy and balanced life, right? Understanding that social life, love life, work life, career, all of these things really require balance. What we do know is if we spend a lot of time in one area, other areas tend to suffer, right? So, how do we focus on living this healthy and balanced lifestyle, especially during the pandemic, right? Healthy living has been a big thing, right? Understanding that our health can impact the health of others. So, really making sure that we're starting to think about things like how we're eating, how we're sleeping, how we're getting those basic needs met, right? And thinking about the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? How are we meeting the basic needs? How are we handling that? Are we getting enough sleep? Are we eating healthy or making the necessary adjustments in terms of food? But living that balanced and healthy lifestyle is important. And one thing that truly suffered, and we all know this, right, is that social aspect of life, being able to connect with people. And as we see things, right, the restrictions start to loosen up, places are opening back up, we're starting to see how important that is. And we were seeing it during pandemic, right? Even pre-pandemic, we kind of assumed like, oh my goodness, how is this going to impact my ability to connect with others? Knowing that this is something that I need, right? Not a want, I actually need that interaction with others. And really starting to see how balance impacts that. So, right, finding that healthy balance of understanding that, social life, right, that's a need. That's what we have to have happen. We want this, and how can we have to focus on that, right? And understand how is it going to look now, right? Now that things are back open, how do vaccines play a role in my social life? Right? How do I create balance where I've been out of the game for so long, over a year and some change, we haven't seen people, and now that things are starting to open back up and I can get back out, what does that look like for me? So really focusing on finding balance, whether it be with your career, social life, love life, all of the above, right? Really finding that balance is important. So not just with us, again, as adults, but helping our children find that balance and looking at things in a different way. Another thing that we can do is don't limit yourself. Don't limit yourself. What we found is that throughout this pandemic, we've had to be creative, right? We've had to be creative with how we adapt to the changes that were just kind of thrown at us. Um, so we've had to be creative. So one thing that I say is create a list of things that you may have been fearful of doing and maybe always wanted to do, but there were some mental barriers in place, not physical. There wasn't nothing physically stopping you from doing these things, but it was the mental barriers. Maybe there was, again, that fear associated with what it means to do this, or the anxiety around it, the worry and concern, that extreme worry and concern about what might happen. And maybe you were only thinking about, maybe you were catastrophizing, right? And what that means is seeing only the worst possible outcome of what might happen. So those, make a list of those things and then do them. Challenge yourself. Say, I'm going to, you know what? I'm going to get out here. I'm going to create experiences and opportunities for myself by doing some new things, some things that I thought was scary, right? And really being willing and open to being creative, right? And trying new things. And this is not, again, it's not just for us, it's for our children, right? We had to be creative and make the adjustments throughout this pandemic. And it's been important because it limited us, right? It stopped us from having opportunities and different experiences. And now that things are opening back up, take advantage. You know, figure out how you can have different experiences and opportunities for yourself and for your children and babies. Okay. Next, you know, we have to let go of regrets. We have to let go of the regrets, the resentment that we might have towards others and ourselves, but the regrets. You know, I regret not being able to do this. So I wish I could have. And the what ifs and all of those things, they can start to hinder our progress, our growth, our ability to mature, right? And develop. And we have to understand that we have to let go of those regrets. And what does that look like? You know, for me, letting go of my regrets may look different completely from what it looks like for you. And for you as a parent, it might look completely different from what it looks like for your child in order to let go of those regrets, right? Um, Especially as a parent, sometimes we regret not letting our child spend more time on social media because now they're starting to engage again in that FOMO. Now they have this fear of missing out. They're really you know, feeling like they're missing the boat, they're missing the ball. Everybody's having fun and living their life, and it's not me, and it's because of you, and you know, that type of thing. We really have to understand and spend some time on dealing with those regrets. You gotta let them go. Okay. Um, Change your mindset. Change your mindset. That's not easy to do. Boy, you know, folks tell me all the time, Jason, oh man, if I could just, you say some great stuff, but damn, it's easier said than done. I wish I could just do those things, right? It's easier said than done. And I say all the time, yep, it is easier said than done, but that's the work, right? That's the work. That's the work that we signed up for as parents. That's the work that we signed up for as just being adults in society, right? Our children look up to us. They're watching what we're doing. And sometimes we have to show them that we're able to look at things from other folks' perspectives. Sometimes we have to show them that we're willing to open up our minds and include others' perspectives, others' input, and really be able to take a step back and say, do we need to change our mindset about this? Am I allowing myself the opportunity to gain enough knowledge and experiences so that I can, you know, practice changing my mindset about certain things and being able to open my mind up to think differently about change and what change means to me, right? So that's important. That's important to be able to do that. It's a huge skill, but it's a challenge to be able to adjust from that traditional way of thinking or that thinking and thought processing that is rooted in traditional values or things that we're not actually considering that might be impacting how we're thinking or perceiving or receiving messages, right? So be able to change your mindset and show our babies that it's okay to think about things differently. It's okay to open yourself up to new perspectives, ideas. Um, Last but not least, find some meaning and purpose in life and focus on it, right? You never know what your purpose is. And ultimately, when you start to find that and feel that, oh my goodness, when you're living and walking in your purpose, oh, it feels good. I don't know if y'all can relate, but man, when you find your thing and you're living in it and you're walking in that purpose, and you have this new meaning for life, it feels great. So if we can help our children see that, right? And that again relates to creating those different experiences and opportunities for yourself, not being afraid to step out and do new things and have new experiences, but really finding meaning in life, saying to yourself, hey, I have a purpose and I'm going to fulfill that purpose, right? And that starts with us. Right? Sometimes it's difficult because we're allowing those emotions and those thoughts to kind of cloud and be, again, mental barriers from us finding meaning in life. But you can do it. And when you learn to do that and find that meaning in life and live in that purpose, that trickles down. And I always tell folks, you can pass things like that and skills like that down, just like you can pass down a piece of property to your child. You can pass down ways to manage your mental health in healthy ways. So it's important that we're practicing things. So find that meaning in life, whether it's being a parent, being there for your children, being a grandparent one day, whether it's your child finding meaning in one day being the president or being an advocate for social justice or being an individual who's a catalyst for change. Really, really helping them find that meaning and purpose in life will help them will help them adjust and adapt to change in a way that's healthy. And remember, parents, don't forget, you are not the problem, but you are a major part of the solution. Thank you guys for listening.
You've been listening to the Teen Whisperer podcast with Jason Clopton, known to his clients as JC the Counselor. Check back every Tuesday for new episodes wherever you listen to your podcasts. Find out more and connect with Jason at ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com.